5-minute break? Yeah. Okay, very good. Yes, I'd like to call this meeting to order. So this is an agenda-setting meeting for the Public Accounts Committee, and the full committee is here today. What we're going to do, we each have in front of us a list of where the gaps are in our upcoming schedule, and we have a couple of gaps in the month of May. One in the month of May and one in the month of June. So what I'd like to do is have each caucus one by one suggest an item from your list of topics, and from that we will have a discussion and a vote on each one. Hopefully we'll come out with 3 new subjects to schedule in our coming weeks. So that is my intention today, and I would ask that we begin with the Liberal caucus. If you could, Mr. Caldwell, perhaps propose one of those as a priority for the next couple of months.
I think our first item on the list, not the rest of our list to be in our priority list, but the first one, the maintenance enforcement, that's a continuous ongoing problem I'm sure that all MLAs are having.
Okay, so maintenance enforcement is suggested as a topic for public accounts. Is there discussion? Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sit as well on the Community Service Committee, and we've just had these people in at the Community Service Committee meeting in April, and we did an extensive review of maintenance enforcement program, and in particular, the follow-up of the AG's report from June 07. So to my mind, it would be redundant for us to go through this one again so soon. It's virtually not a full month since they've been before the committee, and it would just be, I think, a good waste of time really to go at it again. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments just yet? Mr. Pereira?
Yes, Madam Chair. The last time we looked at this issue, we agreed to go and review the minutes from that meeting, and I would agree with the member from Antigonish that we really did cover that in great detail. And I think you were there yourself and asked some questions about the Auditor General's report, so I would concur.
But shall we have a vote on that one, Mr. Caldwell, or would you like to, Mr. Caldwell?
Yes, I'd like a vote on it. We're outnumbered here anyway, so whatever the NDP Caucus wants to do, we'll be doing, but I want to vote on it, and I want to record a vote.
Okay, so we can certainly have a vote on that, and again, this is a subject that can come back again, but I'll call for the question. Those in favor of calling the maintenance enforcement program? Oh, recorded vote. Okay, recorded vote, that means I'll call the roll as well. So those in favor of maintenance enforcement, again, you know the rules. If we have 2 members asking for a recorded vote, we'll go there. I think that I heard an approval there. Wait, did we have 2? Yes, Mr. McMaster said yes. So I'll just go through that. It's really a formality, but Mr. Smith, are you in favor of maintenance enforcement? I think you've already spoken. So.
No, thank you.
No, and
no.
Mr. Wynot, no. Mr. Goss?
No.
Mr. McKinnon?
No.
Mr. Pereira?
No.
Okay, Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
And Mr. McMaster?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so that's 2 to 5, and we will move to the, sorry, yeah, 5 noes, 2 yays, and it's immaterial for the chair to vote in this one. So if we could have another item from the Liberal caucus, please.
I'd like to put the Workers' Compensation Board on this.
Okay. Very good. And I think that is an item we haven't seen here at Public Accounts for quite some time. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have, when you say Workers' Compensation Board, could we have some detail as to what the issue would be that these people would be coming to speak about in terms of public accounts issue?
Mr. Caldwell?
The issue with the workers' compensation is that there's a huge unfunded liability. We'd like to see exactly where that is, what they're doing to address that, and how they plan to address it long term. It's a serious issue.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
And is that part 2 of the Act, is he looking at?
I'm not sure. It certainly falls under our Labor, Department of Labor.
There's 2 different ministries, isn't there?
2 different ministers. Well, So you're wondering more, who would we call?
Yeah, I want to know what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, well, as you know, it's a charge on every single employer in the province.
Yes.
that they're paying large fees to workers' comp. We also have a very high rate of accidents on the job, and we just recently celebrated or marked the sad occasion of injured workers. Yeah. So it's looking at the cost to run that program and looking at whether or not it's funded, how well it's funded.
Okay, and thank you for that. My question, when it just said Workers' Compensation Board, it didn't mean anything to me.
That's right. Well, you know, and I'm really tying it back to the province and the concerns of us, you know, what we would have concerns in terms of being the, you know, the government of the province. We could talk to our clerk about who might come, or perhaps ask Mr. Horgan who might come, but if we were calling workers' comp, we have done so in the past. Maybe Ms. Henry, have you an idea who we'd call?
Well, in the past, it would have been the CEO of the Workers' Compensation Board. Mm-hmm. And we can go through the Department of Labor and Workforce Development to inform the minister and the deputy.
That's very good, yeah. So that would be the idea, and certainly, yes, Mr. Wynot.
Yeah, no, my only concern was a very broad-based thing, and you know, I would recommend that maybe we come back and you know, have a time to find out who that would be and discuss it at the next agenda meeting.
I think the CEO is Nancy McCready-Williams, I believe, and she's very well spoken and has been with the organization a long time. So I think she would be a natural to have. She would probably bring her chief financial officer, I would imagine, to speak to this, and we could have a representative. You know, the department would really choose who they send. Just for the committees, I know some members are new. What our clerk does and in the process is contact the deputy minister's office and ask then, who would you like to have here? Who do you think is most appropriate? So we don't, you know, we usually don't know in advance exactly the best employee. We often ask within the department to have them determine whether it's a good use of the deputy minister's time or there's someone else they want to send. Mr. Prera.
Madam Chair, I think this is a really important topic and something that we should look at, but I agree with the member from Hammonds Plains that we probably should get a little bit more clarity about what it is we want to get at. So I would suggest that we address this issue again at our next meeting. Not to say we're not supporting it, but I think it would be nice to get some clarity about what kinds of issues we want to look at, and that would then determine who we actually invite. So I would move that we just defer it until the next meeting.
Well, we have a motion on the table, but I would like to hear from Mr. Caldwell.
Well, I don't know what's not clear about looking at the unfunded liability of $700 million. That's strictly the Workers' Compensation Board looks after that. They've got to come up with a plan, how they're going to look after this and how it's going to affect businesses in the province and everything else. And I'm not interested in deferral, and I want to see this move forward. This is a very important topic to the economy of the province of Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I know there is a motion to defer it. I would again like to speak to the fact that this is a compelling issue, and our process in setting the agenda, we're only now doing it in public. We have previously, for the last number of years, since 2004, I believe, had in-camera meetings. But what I think is important in this instance is that we've never had a rule to present a topic and then present our questions. That's really going a little bit far, I think, in terms of what we're expecting. What we have is an issue. We have an important organization that is, you know, controls millions of dollars and provides a lot of funding to many people, and you know, they depend upon it, and companies are impacted by it because of the rates. So it has broad-ranging impacts on the province, and I think it's a very good one for us to look at. I'm not sure that not having more information is a good reason to defer this. Mr. McKinnon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I consider myself to be a team player all the time. However, I feel very strongly about the Workers' Compensation Board, and having so many workers, and I deal almost on a daily basis with workers' compensation, and I don't think it should be deferred, and I'll suffer the consequences because I'll be voting with my colleagues.
Yeah. Are there any other comments? I mean, I think you might want to, you know, consider it, or we'll go straight to the vote. Any further discussion? I'll invite it. No? So Mr. Caldwell has asked for a recorded vote again, and Mr. McMaster has also. So we'll go to a recorded vote on that. As I say, I just think it is a very good subject for this committee to look at. And I would ask for if we could, we'll begin with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Wynot?
Yes.
Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
And Mr. Pereira?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. McMaster?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, and I do appreciate that. Sometimes a little discussion is very useful. So we have one item now chosen from the Liberal Caucus. We'll move along to the Conservative Caucus, and I would ask Mr. McMaster if he would like to choose one of the 5 items that we have on your list of outstanding items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to propose Department of Justice Correctional Services Division, with the subject being correctional facilities in the province.
Okay. Any discussion on that item? Mr. Pereira?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I haven't seen this topic before, so I'm not sure where it's coming from.
The one thing I can say is that this list is dated April 7th. Actually, it was updated. The list was updated just on Friday.
It was emailed on April 22nd and then again on April 30th to all members.
Okay, thank you. So April 22nd and April 30th, this list, and it was consolidated into one page. We previously were getting 3, one from each caucus, and I asked our clerk if she could put it all on one page so we could be more on top of it. So the item has been there as one of the potential subjects so that we could all be prepared to discuss it today. Mr. Pereira?
Could I just get an explanation for what issues are being considered here? I mean, it's a fairly broad statement of just correctional services.
Certainly, that's fair. Mr. McMaster, could you speak to that?
Certainly. There's been some debate in the province over location of correctional facilities, and there could be changes to that, and there could be changes to the costs involved, and that's, I think, what makes bringing forward the Department of Justice, the Correctional Services Division, to speak about correctional facilities. I think that it's a timely topic of discussion at this point.
Mr. Pereira.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, as something we brought up consistently in this committee is that what we're doing in this committee is looking at past expenditures and not future policy decisions. And so this question of the location of jails really doesn't fit into the mandate of the Public Accounts Committee at the moment.
Mr. McMaster.
I see no harm in discussing the past practices of the department and why correctional facilities were located where they have been located in the past, and the costs of that, and that I think would be helpful for us looking into the future, and it is looking at past expenditure, and we have to know from where we've come to know where we're going.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I think Mr. Pereira's comments, if I may, as the chair, they certainly are right. Our Public Accounts Committee does look at expenditures in the past, but certainly the correctional, the section on correctional services is a large expenditure. We do have correctional facilities and costs and impacts on the size and location. That's part of it in the past. So that's what you'd like to look at, really, is the management and costs associated with correctional services.
Correct.
That's correct. Okay. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wanting to make sure that if this topic comes forward, we are dealing with past expenditures. My position is, I guess the last jail or correctional facility built in Nova Scotia would be the Burnside one. I don't know how many years back that is now. It's getting on. The jail in Antigonish is 70, 80 years old. The one in Amherst is over 100 years old. I mean, is that the kind of thing we're going to be discussing? It doesn't make... I would like to know in detail what we're intending to accomplish by having a full meeting, talking about jails that are 100 years old or nearly 100 years old, or I don't know, what's that for? What are we hoping to achieve?
What we would look at here, and I will go to Mr. McMaster, but, and again, this is new for us with some new members on the committee, but generally we would take that line item, correctional services, look at the costs that are involved, whether it's the number of staff, whether they're properly trained, whether they're properly resourced, whether they have the right equipment and facilities that they're housed in. Those kind of questions look to the value for money of what we're getting as a province, and whether or not, it's been well managed. We look in the past to see whether there's ways to improve. And I think that, I'm sure that our auditor would agree with us as well, that that is the role of the committee, to look at the best, use of resources and whether it's efficient and effective. And so that would be, that should be the aim of the meeting. Mr. McMaster, did you want to add to that?
Madam Chair, I can appreciate the point made by the member from Antigonish. There's no question if a jail is built 70 or 80 years ago, it's the cost of that is not relevant perhaps today, but the operational cost of that facility is relevant, as it's happening on an ongoing basis. And so I think it's still relevant from that perspective. Okay. And there may be other points as well that since I'm not a regular member of the Public Accounts Committee for the Progressive Conservatives, there may be other reasons as well that I'm not able to state here today. But I think for the point I just mentioned, it's still relevant.
Okay, very good. Well, shall we call the question then? If everybody's had their say, then I'd like to call the question about the Department of Justice. Those in favor, please say aye. Oh, recorded vote, okay. Well, again, I'll go through the roll. Let me get ready again. Thank you. So, yeah, Mr. Smith, a comment?
Were two people calling for a recorded vote?
Yes, there were two voices there, and for the record, it's Mr. Caldwell and Mr. McMaster.
Thank you.
So if I could, I'll begin with Mr. Smith, and this is to call the Department of Justice to discuss the Correctional Services Division.
No.
No, that's Mr. Smith. And Mr. Wynot?
No.
Mr. Goss?
No.
Mr. McKinnon?
No.
And Mr. Prera?
No.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
And Mr. McMaster?
Yes.
And I myself will say yes. I've been instructed that I have a vote at the committee as well. So that's 3, 4, 5 against, and we will not be calling the Department of Justice at this time. And perhaps you would choose your second priority item, please, Mr. McMaster, and present it to us. I'm sorry, Mr. McMaster? Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Prera has a point of clarification.
I think we had talked at the last meeting about doing something from the Conservative list after the Auditor General reported. I think we were going to do something on mental health. I think, was it not? Since we're now into June, I'm wondering if I mean, we hadn't said no to that one. I think we had just said if we're moving into post-Auditor General's report, and since there will be something on that.
So that would be, just a suggestion from you.
Just
You're right, we did discuss it.
because I didn't want him to think that we had forgotten or rejected that. It was just...
No. And it's a compelling subject as well. Mr. McMaster, is that your second priority?
I would be pleased to put that forth, especially given that the member has indicated that there's some interest there as well, and provided that the time works, that report is out and in time. I think we had perhaps, Madam Chair, you can clarify, there was a date in June that was vacant, that perhaps we could put that forth for that date.
Right.
Provided that the report is out by that time.
That's right. I think I might ask Mr. Horgan if we're still on schedule for the June 2nd meeting, which is the release of your Auditor General's report.
Yes, we are.
Yes, and that does include a chapter on mental health services?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that would be very timely. It would follow. So right now, the 9th of June is an open meeting. We have nothing scheduled on that date, so that would be the week after we receive the Auditor General's report. So I'll call for the question if there's no further discussion, and the question is to call the Department of Health Mental Health Services Division. Mr. Goss?
Recorded vote.
Oh, yes, okay. Mr. Goss and Mr. Wynot would like a recorded vote on this, and I think that's very appropriate. All right, I will begin, and again, as I said, it would be to call the Mental Health Services Division, beginning with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Wynot?
Yes.
Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. Prera? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. McMaster?
Yes.
And I, as chair, will vote yes for that as well, and we have a unanimous vote, which is wonderful. And I think that is a very important one for June. So that allows us 2 items that have been confirmed, and I would like to turn to the NDP Caucus. Mr. Prera, perhaps you would like to put an item on the agenda from
Well, we would like to look at the cap on greenhouse gases and how that system is working and is being administered.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's any comment on that. Any discussion at all? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes, I'm going to ask the same question to NDP. What's the relevance to this committee?
Mr. Prera?
It's an environmental issue.
This is quite a large initiative on the part of the government that connects up with the, with the plan that actually began with the Conservative Party, the whole Sustainable Prosperity Initiative, and we would like to see how that plan is unfolding and how that money is being spent, and in recent government amendments to that policy, it's probably the whole green initiative is probably one of the biggest initiatives of the government, and we would both the previous government and this one, and so we would like to have a look at those expenditures.
Okay. Mr. Caldwell?
I appreciate Mr. Pereira's comments on this. This is really an environmental issue, and if they're going to talk government policy here, they just voted against that in other topics. And what's the financial impact here? What's the province spent on this? If we're going to find that in the past, I don't know if there's enough to talk about this and financially about this. It's a good program. I think it's great. But I think that should probably go to a different committee than this committee.
Mr. Pereira?
I didn't say policy. I said it was an important policy, but there are significant expenditures attached to it, and we wanted to see how those expenditures were being made.
I think that is what is of greatest interest to this committee, would be how much has been allocated in the past, how much have we spent, and whether or not it's been adequate even to achieve the aims that we have put in place. Is that any further comment from our members? Mr. McMaster, perhaps. Would
it be possible to have, say, the Department of Energy in as well to provide their perspective at the same time? Is that...
If the cost center is located there, I think it would be appropriate, but we'd need to find out, and probably a good portion of the money that's allocated to see this implemented is actually in the Department of Energy. Again, this would be one of the questions we would go to Ms. Henry and ask her to locate within government where dollars have been allocated to achieve this end, or to monitor, to enforce it. Question, is it? Yeah, Mr. Pereira?
We would be quite happy to have the Department of Energy come in. Yeah.
Very good. All right. All right, very good. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Oh. All right, no. All right, that was funny. Good, thank you very much. And I will say that that is the third item then that we've chosen. Ms. Henry will try and fit those three in before the end of June. So that one is an approval on the caps on greenhouse gases. All right, very good. Thank you very much, and we'll have a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Mr. Wynot, thank you. I'm glad we didn't have to do that on each and every one.